Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Grounded. My name is Brian Boyd. Today's topic is the rejection of leadership. If you've been tuning in for a while, I would love to welcome you back and thank you for your support. But if you happen to be brand new, I would love to welcome you into the Grounded community. And hopefully this episode will inspire you to check out some of the content from before and stick around for the content to come. But with that being said, everyone, let's talk about the rejection of leadership. And this is an episode that simply came from my favorite verse in the Bible, or at least one of them, and that is Matthew chapter 13, verse 57. And it simply reads that, and they took offense at him, but Jesus said to them, a prophet is not without honor except in his own town and in his own home. The funny thing about this verse is that it always serves as a constant reminder that no matter how much somebody may accomplish in life, no matter how many people they may influence, no matter how many gifts that God has given them and the impact that they may have made on the world or the communities, there are always going to be people seemingly closest to them that's not going to appreciate them for the stuff that they did. And they're not going to be people that see them as the people that they are, but coincidentally, the people that they used to be or the people that they met years before. And this is something that is simply a common aspect in leadership because there are people that suffer with that. And no matter what particular scope you're in, no matter what field you're in, because there are always going to be people around you that will do those same things. In my personal life, I can attest to the fact of, with me growing up and entering my career and doing some of the things that I'm doing now, there's still people to this day that I grew up with that don't see me as the person that I am now. They still see me as that shy, nerdy, insecure kid that didn't know much better with life, didn't really care about the stuff that he was doing, was indecisive with every major decision that he made, and was just, unconfident with the stuff that I wanted to do. That's the person that some people still see me as, but it's not something that, I relish in now. It's not something that I'm offended by, but it's something that I have accepted because the reality of that is that you're going to always have people like that. You're always going to have people that won't receive you or respect you for the person that you are. You're going to have people that won't always listen to you when you want the best, even though you want the best for them. There are always going to be people that are still going to stay in that particular mindset or have that opinion of you. And the reality of that is that while you're on this journey and you come across people that may still be in that space, you're just going to have to be willing to accept them for who they are, despite how much you may want to help them. And then you're going to have to keep going and doing what you're doing. You can't let or allow those people to drag you back. You can't allow the opinions of those people to pull you down because there's something out there that God has destined for you to do. And by you taking thought and you getting discouraged and falling behind because of those decisions or because of the way those people made you feel, you're going to be held back and you have to keep moving forward because there's an impact that you have to make. And that's even true when it came to Jesus, because if you look at his whole life from start to finish, he fought for most of it. He was always against other people at that time. And the coincidental part about it is that he was against the very religious folk that he came to save on this world. But that is truly a different episode. But it comes back to the fact of even those people there, the people that were supposed to be closest to him, the people that were supposed to know him and love him, were the same people that rejected him at the end of the day. But that did not stop him on his journey. He still did what he did. And because of that, everyone on this earth has the ability to receive the gift of salvation. They have the ability to receive the gift of eternal life, the one that God gives freely to those who choose to receive it. But to explain this story a little bit more, once again, we're going to go and look at Matthew chapter 13, verse 57, and it reads one more time that, and they took offense at him, but Jesus said to them, a prophet is not without honor except in his own town and in his own home. And with that, this is Jesus right after he returned to his hometown of Nazareth and started preaching and doing miracles for his people that he knew. And the different thing about this is that this is Jesus after he got baptized. This is Jesus after he went out into the world and started healing the sick and casting out devils and teaching the world, about the kingdom of God and the things that it takes for you to get in there. This is the Jesus that went from being that kid in that small town of Nazareth to being known throughout that known world, to the point to where people would announce him coming and they would expect him, and there would be crowds waiting for him to enter into the village. This is the same Jesus that even the very people there were feared of. The religious leaders of the day feared because of the popularity and the power and the authority that he exercised in regards to God and his kingdom. This is the same Jesus that everybody was loved to see, no matter where they were, what they were doing. And this is the same Jesus that went back to his hometown of Nazareth that he grew up in to do these same things for his very people. But the difference here, as opposed to all of those other places, is that those people knew Jesus on an intimate level. They knew Jesus when he was coming up. They knew him as the carpenter's son. They knew him as Mary's son. They knew him as the brothers of James, and I forget his other brother name. It's fine, I just read the verse, but they knew him as that, and they knew his sisters and everything. So they couldn't see him as the famous Jesus, the one that went out and did all of the miracles and taught in the synagogues. They couldn't see him as the savior of the world or the son of God. They couldn't see him as the person he already was, but he ended up becoming. They saw him as the person that grew up there at that particular time in that particular town. And because of that, he couldn't do the miracles there that he was supposed to do. And that actually follows up in Matthew 13:58. And it simply says that, and he did not do many miracles there because of their lack of faith. The whole pretense of this story is the fact of Jesus couldn't do the things that he wanted to do there. He couldn't be effective as he needed to be because the people could not move beyond the mindset that they had at that time. They could not see him as the person that he was, but they saw him as the person that he once was. And there's so many times in our lives where we're faced with the same situation. We can't always impact the community directly around us, but there may be times where we may have to go outside of that community in order to impact and make the same changes that we were called to make. And if you're one of those people and you're faced with that, you have to be willing to accept that that may be the case for you. You may not be able to do it in your city or even in your state. You may have to travel and move to an entirely different place in order for you to be as effective as you need to be. You may have to go even to another country to be as effective as you need to be. But regardless, you may have to leave stuff behind. You leave people and situations and all behind in order for you to become as impactful as you're supposed to be. And you have to be open for that. You have to be willing to accept that for what it is, because that is only going to hold you back if you don't. The same thing happened here with Jesus, because after he realized that they could not do that, he had to go, because one of the prerequisites for God performing miracles and for God being able to do things in people's life is that they have faith. And that actually goes to Hebrews 11:6, that those who come to God must first believe that he is, and he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. And if you don't have faith that God exists or that he is God and he can do all of these things, then there's nothing that he can do for you. And that is basically what happened here with Jesus. He wanted to help them. He wanted them to believe, but because they could not believe, he couldn't do the miracles there. And the one thing that I want to look at specifically here also is that it says that they were offended at him. And when you read the verse before, 54 through 56, you'll see that they were amazed at him, right? They were amazed at all the stuff that he was doing, but then they started saying, wait a minute. Isn't this the Jesus that's the son of Joseph and Mary? Isn't this the Jesus that we know all of his brothers and sisters? He can't be this person that we was. He can't have this wisdom. He can't have this knowledge. Where did this stuff come from? And that's what ended up making them offended. But when you look at that, you could say to some extent that the Nazarenes at that time were just a product of their environment. Because if you look at Nazareth, even in that particular world, it was surrounded by, Romans, but they had Greek philosophy. It was a Greek dominated world. So everybody started living a certain way. But Nazareth was the exception because that was the town that stayed traditional. It was a traditional Hebrew town. So you could say to some extent that they were stuck in the mindset. And because they were stuck at that particular time in that particular space and they were unwilling to change, they couldn't receive Jesus any other way outside of the son of the carpenter. and the daughter and the son of Mary. They can only receive him as that particular person. And that may be the same thing even where you're at in your life, or even where you live at right now. You may be in a community, or you may be in a city where people only see you as that person, and they only see you that way because that's the mindset and the culture of the city that you're in. They can't see you any other way because they're so used to everything being the same. They're so used to everything not changing. They're so used to not embracing different things. And because you're so different, because you're so radical in your thoughts, or you may be so different in how effective that you truly are, that those people can't receive you, and they get offended because you are coming in and it seems like you're forcing a change on something that shouldn't be changed. And that's why I said once again that even with that, Jesus had to end up leaving that place. And I think honestly, and I have to go back and look, I'll fact check it and then get back with y'all next week. I don't think Jesus actually went back to Nazareth at all after that. I think he kept going and traveled around other places of the world. And not trying to be that person, but since this is grounded, you may have to be in that space too. You may have to travel outside of your place completely and may possibly never come back, because you have people out there that you have to impact, but you have to be comfortable with those things. You have to be comfortable with those decisions, because if you are truly a leader, if you truly want this for your life and you truly want to walk in the calling that God has for you, you may have to be faced with that decision one day. And while I can tell you that that is a hard decision, and I can tell you for sure that that's a decision that I have not made yet, if it was push came to shove and I knew that I had to leave in order to be as effective as I needed to be, then I'm willing to leave this stuff behind me, especially if I know the Lord is leading me to do this thing. All right. Because the reality of it is that while you may be effective, even staying where you are, there are times where he may have to take you out of the situation so that you can be more effective. And he even did that in the Bible with Abraham, right? Because Abraham lived in that place for all of his life. He was 75 years old. And then God had came to him and told him to go into this new place that you don't know, that you've never been. And I will make your children as the sands of the sea and the stars of the sky. And that's the promise that he had. And the only way that he was able to embrace that promise or receive that promise is with him first leaving the land that he's in. But, with that being said, I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but the whole purpose of this episode is to get you to understand that sometimes as a person and as a leader, you may be rejected by the people around you. And in some cases, that may be the people that are closest to you. That may even be the people, or it may stand to the community or the city that you're in. And you can't be effective by that. If you're going to be the person that you're supposed to be, you can't let those things and those opinions of people or their actions towards you hinder you from doing the stuff that you're supposed to do. And if worse come to worse, you may have to be comfortable with leaving and going to an entirely different place in order to be as impactful as you need to be. And that's the same exact thing that Jesus did, because once he realized that they did not have faith in him, he could not help them. And he ended up going to other places in the world that were willing to receive him, and he was willing to be. And that's why Jesus became effective. And even with this particular story, looking at the intentionality of Jesus' life, there was nothing that he did that didn't make sense. There was nothing that he did that was without purpose. And maybe the reason why he went back here is to show us that sometimes we can't affect people in our own places. We can't affect the people that are closest to us, but we have to be comfortable with those things and be willing to move on if we can't. But with that being said, y'all, that's pretty much the episode. All right. The funny thing is that God brought this to me multiple ways throughout this week. But yeah, that's pretty much it, y'all. That's the end of the episode. The funny thing is that God had brought this to me multiple times throughout this week. And I know this is something I had to talk about. And it's not really something that I just really think about, because the reality of it, I've told you so many times, I'm not really affected by the way people react to me or the way people think. And while I do have many people that support me and I'm so thankful for them, I know that there are people who are not always welcoming to some of the things that I've won or some of the things that I do. But the reality of that is that I understand that I can't be held back by that stuff. I have to continue moving forward. And the best thing that I can do for that person is still love them for who they are, accept their ideals of me, and then just keep going. Because as I said before, if you're going to be effective in this world, you have to be willing to make that decision and move in that direction, no matter who that is or who that may be. And while I do have so many stories for y'all, those are truly stories for another time. All right. But with that being said, I hope you all got something out of this episode. And if you did, please be sure to like and follow the Grounded Podcast, whatever platform you have to be listening on, and to check us out on social media as well. If you have any questions for me, comments, concerns, prayer requests, things of that nature, you can reach out to me at brian@thegroundedpodcast.com. Or you can reach out to me on social media if you follow me there. With that being said, I love each and every one of you. I pray you have a blessed week, and just go forward. Know that you're incredible. Know that you're a leader, and be willing to do the things that God is leading you to do. And don't let nothing hinder you from doing those things. All right. Y'all take care. Y'all have a blessed night. Brian Boy, I'm out, y'all. Hey everyone, Brian here once again. Thank you so much for tuning in to Grounded. If these messages have been a blessing to you, please consider donating at thegroundedpodcast.com/donate. Furthermore, if you're looking for books and journals and other resources that will help improve your life, business, and relationships, please be sure to check those out at thegroundedpodcast.com/store. As always, it's been a blessing. I truly love each and every one of you, and I truly hope to see you all once again very soon. All right.